godfather of free agency and change to MLB up until this day has somewhat been lost in history. He was a giant and intelligent baseball player who loved his brothers in St. Louis and did not want to be traded, from Bob Gibson, the great Hall of Fame pitcher, and the St. Louis Cardinals. He took a stand before Colin Kaepernick took a knee and was a sacrificial lamb for baseball in the 1960s. He paved the way for Alex Rodriguez and many of these extensive lucrative contracts, the Clayton Kershaws making millions in MLB. The world should know about this African American giant, Curt Flood. He was a center fielder who played 15 seasons in Major League Baseball for the Cincinnati Reds, St. Louis Cardinals, and Washington Senators. Flood was a three-time All-Star, Gold Glove winner for 7 consecutive teams, and batted over 306 seasons. He led the National League in hits 211 in 1964 and in singles 1963, 1964, and 1968. Flood also led the National League in putouts as a center fielder 4 times and in fielding percentage as a center fielder 3 times. He retired with the most games in center field, 1683 in NL history, trailing Willie Mays and Richie Ashburn. Flood became one of the pivotal figures in sports labor history when he refused to accept a trade following the 1969 season, ultimately appealing his case to U.S. Supreme Court. Although his legal challenge was unsuccessful, it brought about solidarity among players as they fought against baseball's reserve clause and sought free agency. Born in Houston, Texas, and raised in Oakland, California, Flood played in the same outfield in West Oakland's McClymonds High School as Vada Pinson. Frank Robinson, on all three would eventually sign professional contracts with the Cincinnati Reds. Flood transferred to Oakland Technical High School, from which he graduated. Flood was upset when Cardinals president Gussie Busch and CEO of team owner Anheuser-Busch offered him only $5,000 raise, far short of the $90,000 salary he believed he deserved after a stellar regular season. He believed Busch, with whom he had previously enjoyed a personal relationship, was expressing his displeasure over the error that had likely cost the team the series. While Busch eventually relented, Flood took it personally when Busch publicly chewed the team out after most players boycotted spring training before the 1969 season for a week, accusing players of forgetting that fans were kept the sport going, although he didn't mention any player by name. Despite his outstanding playing career, Flood's principal legacy developed off the field. He believed that Major League Baseball's decades-old reserve clause was unfair, and it kept players beholden for life to a team which they originally signed, even when they had satisfied the terms and conditions of these contracts. On October 7, 1969, the Cardinals traded Flood, Tim McCarver, Bryson Brown, and Joe Horner to the Philadelphia Phillies for Dick Allen, Cookie Rojas, and Jerry Johnson. Flood refused to report to the terrible Phillies, citing the team's poor record and dilapidated Connie Mack Stadium, for which he alleged were racist fans. Flood said that I didn't think I was going to report to Philadelphia, mainly because I didn't want to pick up 12 years of my life and move to another city. Some reports say he was irritated that he learned of the trade from a reporter. Flood wrote in his autobiography that a mid-level Cardinals manager was angry and then the call did not come from the general manager. Further alienating him from Busch, he met with Phillies general manager John Quinn, who left the meeting believing that he had persuaded Flood to report to the team. Flood stood to forfeit a lucrative $100,000 contract, equivalent of $700,000 in the 2023 contract, if he did not report. But after meeting with the players' union head, Marvin Miller, who informed him that the union was prepared to fund a lawsuit, he decided to pursue his legal options. Flood vs. Kunt was argued before the Supreme Court on March 20, 1972. Flood's attorney, former Supreme Court Justice Arthur Goldberg, asserted that the reserve clause depressed wages and limited players to one team for life. Despite the loss in the Supreme Court, the Baseball Players Union convinced to push to eliminate the reserve clause. It was finally struck down in December 1975 in a case involving players Dave McNally and Andy Messerschmidt. In July 1976, the union and the baseball team owners agreed to a contract that included free agency. In 1998, the federal government passed the Curt Flood Act of 1998. The act, passed by the 105th Congress and signed into law by President Clinton, revokes baseball antitrust status save for expansion, minor leagues, and franchise relocation, a status that Major League Baseball has enjoyed for 75 years after the Supreme Court had ruled that baseball was eligible for status under interstate commerce. The act did exactly what Flood wanted. It stopped owners from controlling the players' contracts and careers. Flood also helped bring about the 10-5 rule, also known as the Curt Flood rule. The rule states that when a player has played for a team for 5 straight years and played in MLB for a total of 10 years, they have to give the club their consent to be traded. After Flood's lawsuit failed, Flood was blackballed from baseball, just like Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee from the NFL. Flood purchased a bar in the resort town of Palma of the island of Majorca, where he moved in the wake of the bankruptcy of his Curt Flood associate businesses. 2 lawsuits and an IRS lien on a home in Oakland he bought for his mother. He lived for a while. Flood endured great pain and being blackballed, but in the end, he won in the pantheon of eternity. To never be forgotten, this great baseball player from Oakland, California, who believed in his principles and endured until the end. We will never forget you, Curt Flood, a legend from Oakland, California, and a great American.